Good morning, Venters. Oh my goodness, it feels cold. So how we will counteract that is we'll walk a little bit faster, get our blood flowing, right? I hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday. Happy hump day for you. I walk every single day, so do the rest of us Venters that watch this channel. And if you're new to this channel, we invite you to walk with us. We believe that one of the best ways to stay healthy going forward in our lives is to have a daily walking routine. A half-hour walk kills and burns about 150 calories, which is about the number of calories that you'll find in a can of soda. So if you love your Coca-Cola and you drink one every single day, let's counteract those calories by taking a half-hour walk. Most people that walk, the only thing that holds them back from their daily walk is sometimes their schedule gets a little hectic and busy. So the way we counteract that is we believe in walking first thing in the morning, right before you go to work. That way work becomes a catalyst for your walking routine rather than an excuse for you to miss your walking routine. If you want to add a little extra credit and lose even more weight, what you can do is you can start walking at your lunch break at work. Most of us get a half hour to an hour, and it usually only takes us 10 or 15 minutes to eat. So why not take a little 15-minute walk at your lunch break? And now that the temperatures are cooler, maybe when you get home, you can even take a third walk. Now, I know that might sound excessive, and if you were going to the gym 3 times a day, you would probably expect to become a bodybuilder with a schedule like that. But with walking, it's a little different. If you enjoy your walk half as much as I do, then it's not really a chore at all. It's not really a workout at all. It's just fun, and it has such a positive effect on our lives that I really recommend it. Guys, the 4B movement originated in South Korea during the mid-2010s. By the way, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over a video by a YouTube channel called What's Trending. So we're going to go over this 4B movement based on what they said on the video, and then we're going to read some comments based on that same video. So again, started in South Korea in the mid-2010s due to women being...
So many people are saying stuff like, oh, the 4B movement is just a TikTok trend. It's not going to take off in real life. It's just a fringe movement. Are they sure about that? Because both CNN and NBC have already reported on the 4B movement since the election.
Again, the 4B movement originated in South Korea in the mid-2010s due to women being upset due to what they describe as gender inequality. The B in the 4B stands for the Korean word which means no. So the 4Bs, in essence, means the 4 no's.
The 4B movement is already starting to go mainstream in the US. And as it does, more and more women are going to consider it for themselves.
Jesse, what are those 4 no's? Bob, I'm glad you asked. Those 4 no's are no dating, no marriage, no childbirth, no physical intimacy. Okay.
Bro, y'all should have been started the 4B movement. Celibacy the wave, you know what I mean?
Well, guys, after the 2024 presidential election, a lot of women that feel like we chose the wrong leader for this country are kind of up in arms, and they're bringing back the 4B ideology, this time to America.
I'm ready to go full 4B movement on the men. Actually, black men, y'all did well. We got about 80% or so. It's always going to be some knuckleheads that think they white and got a white woman or, whatever. Treating women like, why are our rights always up for grabs? It's not a free country if every 4 years I got to fight for my life. Like, if y'all insist on making women second-class citizens, we don't have to give you our body.
So now we have women that are making promises and vows to each other not to give men sex for the next 4 years. And it's leading to some extreme ideologies where people are actually encouraging other women to go ahead and divorce their husbands. And in many cases, they're actually chopping off their hair. And sometimes they actually do this online for all to see.
Since Donald Trump won the election, women are now demanding respect from men, or else they would not have sex with them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but shouldn't that be the way anyways?
Just real quick before I go on, women, I've always looked at women and I've always thought, wow, what a beautiful creature, right? Women are just absolutely gorgeous. Part of that femininity and beauty is their hair. So here's my thought. If you're chopping off your hair to avoid sex, I don't see how that's really hurting anybody but yourself. If you don't want to have sex, wouldn't it be a bigger, more important thing to keep your hair look as beautiful as possible and still deny men sex? I think that would be a little bit of a better way to go about it.
We're going to do like they doing over in Korea. Korea got a whole missing class of children because they stopped mating with the men and they stopped giving birth because their rights were not being protected and because the men were not doing their fair share. And I'm ready to go full 4B.
Why did you guys need Donald Trump to get elected for you to do the right thing?
And by the way, whenever you have something that's a little extreme, you're going to have backlash in the other direction. So one of the things they showed on this video is that there are a couple women that are going in the opposite direction and they actually want to have babies. I thought that was kind of a unique twist on this video. Whenever you have people that are on one side of the extreme, you're always going to have people that are urging you to go to the other side of the extreme. Is having babies extreme? No, but when you're telling people that you want to become a baby factory, it doesn't necessarily come across in a positive way either.
I think that the only way that women are going to get respect and change the narrative and break out of this misogynistic patriarchal nightmare is to withhold our bodies and start demanding more.
Prior to this election, were you guys just going around opening your legs for any men who didn't care about you or respect you?
Other people have stated that unless all women are on board and decide to keep the box from men, then ultimately it's not going to have any effect. But I would disagree. My thinking is, one of the things that I've noticed over the last 10 or 15 years, and maybe you guys can let me know your thoughts down in the comments, but I feel like over the last 10 or 15 years, I'm already seeing less strollers than ever. I'm already seeing less couples than ever. And I already notice that men and women don't seem to like each other nearly as much as they used to. One of the things, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but when we were younger, women were always taught how special their love was and how you don't want to be giving sex to every single person because of how special your box is, so to speak. I think something might have got lost in translation, because while I agree, when I was growing up, I saw women as a very special thing, right, in my life. At the same time, over the last handful of years, not so much. A lot of women have been out dating a lot more men than maybe their mothers or their grandparents did. Moms or grandmas, I should say. And it's kind of led to a situation where a lot of men have been kind of going their own way. That's what MGTOW stands for, men going their own way. And a lot of people in this video were just kind of pointing out the fact that it sounds like this is just women going their own way. I think it sounds like alien beings coming down and making it where we can't stand each other. And by the way, if you're a man and you're listening to this, let me ask you a question. When you were younger and you were trying to court a girl, one of the things that made it special for you was the idea that making love to that girl would be a special gift between you and her, right? And it was seen as something special. But if you fast forward to nowadays, where we have online dating, and sometimes women and men sometimes might have just a crazy amount of partners, all of a sudden it makes every single sexual encounter you make kind of like playing Russian roulette. Are you going to get a sexually transmitted disease Because if having sex with the girl of your dreams can potentially lead to a nightmare situation down there, then maybe that specialness that we grew up with regards to women's sexuality, maybe it's not quite as special as the women think it is.
When men touch us, you know, that unsolicited touch they do when they're trying to get our attention, speak to us, begin to ensnare us in their drama, that is them being a man and wanting something from a woman, can we start screaming?
When I was younger, a lot of women were told that when you give a man sex, it's something special. So you want to make sure that you give it to the right person. Singular, not people, not football team, not every single man that's over 6 foot tall that makes 6 figures, right? It was something special that you were supposed to wait till marriage for. So from a guy's point of view, you knew that when you were courting a woman, you were ultimately, especially if you really, really were into her, you were courting something that was going to be special, a bond that was shared just between you and the person. But now, unfortunately, we live in this hypersexual world where, my goodness, every time you have sex with a person, one of the first things that you should be thinking about is, should I be wearing a condom? Should we be going through and trying to have safe sex? Yeah, you really should. If the girl of your dreams is no longer a virgin and now she has 5, 6, 7 partners, that's not good. And if women cutting their hair and making a vow of celibacy for 4 years is something that they're willing to actually do, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. If you have multiple partners, whether you're a man or a woman, your sex is not that special. It's potentially deadly to a partner. So one of the things that I would suggest is that in a hypersexual world like we live in, take a step back. Look at it from a 1990s point of view. Were people having sex back then? Yeah, people were probably having more sex back then than they are now, but they weren't so out there having sex with so many partners. I remember in the 90s, if you were talking to a girl, they usually would say, hey, you know, I've had X amount of partners, and usually it was a number in the single digits. Now there are men and women out there that think it's awesome to tell people that they've had 40, 50, or 60 partners. In a world where 1/3 of the people have, you know, sexually transmitted diseases, when somebody tells you they've been with 50 or 60 partners, your next question should be, was that protected? And if they say no, you should pick yourself up, leave $30 there for the date, and take off out the door, maybe even running. And girls, this goes equally for you. If you're with a guy that has 1 million partners, guess what? He's not with you. He's just with you for the evening. Jajit 1111 says, old women here cheering you girls on. Jajit, I'm cheering them on too. I don't like the idea of you cutting off your hair because I think that only punishes you, not the men. But at the same time, I think we need to get a return to celibacy. People need to start waiting until they get married, or at least until they meet somebody special. You guys all know some woman or some guy that probably slept with the wrong person. They might have multiple children with multiple men. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. Another thing, when you shave your head and you go through this, I'm assuming that most of these women are liberal women and not necessarily conservative. But if you are a conservative woman and you're hearing my words and you're in your 20s or 30s, don't cut your hair. But at the same time, there are some positive virtues from this. Wait until you meet somebody special before you're laying down in bed with them.
Can we do that? Because I did that recently And it was so great. It was so great. I was at this like bar, right? And this guy was like trying to say something to me. Like he tapped me, and then I was like, okay, what? And like he wasn't using his voice. It's like he was trying to like be funny and cute. He was neither. And I'm not one of those like, what? I was like, if I'm not, especially because like now the way I feel about men, I'm kind of like, what the fuck? I was just kind of like, what? And he was like, I was like, yo, are you using your voice? He was like, I was like, all right. Then he like moved on, right? He moved on and ended up dancing with some girl. And it's funny because like some other people, I don't know because I went there by myself. It's like we all collectively saw, okay, good, he finally found someone. So I was like, y'all peep too. Love that for me. Found my tribe. And then he like leaves the girl and ends up going back to the bar. I feel his beady ass eyes just knocking on my temporal lobe, right? So I was just like, oh my God. So then he touches me again, but this time the touch went down and touched my thigh, and I had a really cute skirt on.
Now, that's not me calling all women hoochies. That's me simply saying that back in the day, something like the person that you had sex with was something that we held it to a higher honor. Nowadays, it's like if you have 50 or 60 partners, you're going to have you're going to have a hard time with pair bonding. You're going to have a hard time loving somebody when you're constantly thinking of the next sexual conquest in your life, which is really weird to say because when I was younger, things like women and their sexual conquest, it wasn't really talked about, whereas nowadays I feel like it is. So Jajit 111 or 1111, I completely agree with you.
I'm gonna guess most of these women are single because I cannot imagine my wife coming up to me and saying, "You're not getting any until Trump is out of office." Honey, I will grab all your clothes and fold them neatly and pack your shit myself.
I think we should cheer these women on, but not because they're withholding sex, but because they're actually staying away from just having multiple sexual encounters. Here's the problem. Most of these people are going to forget about this in 2 or 4 months, right? So 2 to 4 months down the road, they're going to forget all about this. Their hair is going to grow back, and they're going to find a good-looking guy, and they're going to give them the sex, just the way it goes. OP25500 says, looks like the price of dildos and batteries will skyrocket. God, I hope this doesn't affect the price of batteries, but you know, you have a good point there. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep numbers on inventory for dildos. Dildos might become extremely popular if they aren't already.
So it touched my skin on my leg, which is too close to the glorious entrance of my vagina, right? So I was like, ah!
And if Trump is the reason why you're not gonna go around and open your legs just for any guy, that says a lot about you. Nobody's losing their rights. You guys need to stop with this nonsense.
Dream Out Loud 2629 says, the funniest part of this whole thing is that women think anyone is gonna miss them or their hair. You know, you bring up a good point. When I was younger, if women would have made this national cause to keep people from having sex for the next 4 years, I think guys would have been extremely worried about it for at least a couple of months, right? But I think nowadays there's so many guys and girls that are disconnected from each other. Is this really going to bother the guy that's sitting in his basement playing video games nonstop? I don't really see how it's going to affect them. And you know, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but ever since online dating, it sounds like 20% of the men are dating 85 to 90% of the women. A lot of women have given up on having sexual encounters with average guys. They all want the guy that's 6 foot tall, that makes 6 figures, that has a 6-pack, that has a giant unit that they're working with, right? And what happens with that is you have this weird warped society where we have a lot of average women that are trying to date the Chad and the Tyrone of the world. And the reality is the math just doesn't math. So if you're threatening a bunch of guys that are already forced into celibacy anyway, I just don't see how you're going to get anywhere with that. Again, tell me if you guys agree with me. Wouldn't it be a better plan if you let your hair down and you actually tried to become the most feminine version of yourself? And then when guys started asking you out, then there would be some real power to telling them no. But here's the problem. If you look your best, you're probably going to have some good-looking guys asking you out, and it's probably going to backfire on you, because usually when people are actually attracted to somebody, those are usually the people they want to have sex with. So again, if you're going to make yourself look less attractive, I think the only person you're hurting is yourself. Does anyone agree with me there? By the way, if you are a young woman and you are waiting for marriage, or if you haven't had a ton of partners, let's say you've only had 1 or 2 partners and you're in your 20s, right? Then I think you're basically making some good decisions already. You're already not having sex with 1 million people. I don't think you need to go out of your way and cut your hair off or, start ignoring hygiene or anything like that. Big G to G says, didn't these women get the memo? Men were done with them over a decade ago. Big G to G, that might be true, but that's not a good thing. We should have young men and women that are together, that are getting married, that are raising a family. Those things are vital for a country to be successful long term. Sometimes there's a piece of me that wonders, we have so many people every day that retire in this country, and we have fewer and fewer babies being born. So there's a piece of me that wonders, is part of the reason that we're letting all these people from South America flood into our country, could there be other reasons than just we want them to flood into the country? I wouldn't be surprised if the game plan on some grand scale is for these people to come in, get jobs, pay taxes, so that they can help us afford our retirement problem in this country. If every day 11,000 people retire and start to take on their Social Security payments, right? So now instead of working and adding taxes into the system, they're taking Social Security checks out of the system. Well, that's going to lead to a poor country pretty darn quickly. One of the best ways you could counter that is to have an insurgence of migrants that come in and start taking up that tax deficit. So there's a piece of me that legitimately wonders if we're letting all these people into our country because somebody has to pay for all of our elderly people's monthly Social Security checks. And wouldn't that be a shame if we actually need immigration because of that? Because if we're relying on people that are no longer having children to have children to pay taxes for our retired folks, we are doomed. Women should be having more babies, not less. And it sounds to me like this is going to lead to even less and less babies. But again, give the women 2-3 months. They'll eventually get right back into the flow of things. I don't see this lasting very long at all. My hands are frozen. Holy moly, it's cold out here. It's probably 45 degrees, but for me, that is cold. Holy moly. Jayo 9190 says, yes, there is. It's called the draft. Now that comment might confuse you a little. One of the things they were talking about in this video was women's autonomy. They want to have control over their body, and they argue that women don't have full control over their bodies like men do. But a lot of the comments were like this, wait a minute, what about the draft? When you're 18, you go to vote, ladies. When men are 18, they go to sign up for the draft. There's a chance they could be drafted into the next major war. Derek Lucero 5785 says probably the most poignant point, and he says millions of cats will get a home. Ladies, I don't know what this is, but it does seem like the older I get, it seems like there's a lot of single middle-aged women that own cats. And again, if you do own a cat, having one or two, no big deal. But if you start to have 3, 4, 5, 6 cats or more, you need to stop yourself. You don't need to give every single feral cat a home away from home in your front or backyard. You got to remember that if you were gone tomorrow, the cats would go on without you. And I even saw a video once that said that even though your pets love you, if you were to drop dead on your living room floor and no one were to find you for a couple weeks, after about 2 or 3 days, your cat and dog would actually start eating your body. Is that the grossest thing ever or what? Guys, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't all hate each other so much. Guys and girls used to make babies in love, not war with each other. And we used to actually get along with people on the opposite political party. Now we poke fun at each other all day. One side talks about how bad the other side is, and then the other side just rebuts them and says, no, you're the bad guy. If everybody's pointing fingers at each other, how are we actually moving to a world that's going to be better? The way we go back to the way we get back on a timeline where the future looks bright is to kind of go back to reality. We need to start judging people on the merits of who they are as individuals. When you go on a dating scene and you swipe right or you swipe left, you're literally swiping on a picture. Don't judge people by their picture. Judge people by their actions and by what they say and what they do. If you find a good person, try to go out with people not solely based on looks, but try to go out with people based on the fact that you like them and there's potential for something to grow there. I kind of sound like Dr. Ruth this morning. The point I'm trying to make is, girls, if you want to be celibate for the right reasons. Don't punish people for somebody they may or may not have even voted for. And if you're going on dates and the first thing out of your mouth is, who did you vote for? You're not very appealing, okay? The first thing out of your mind should be, tell me about your parents. And if their parents are divorced, there's a good chance that they're going to end up being divorced. If their parents are married, there's a good chance that you might be dating somebody that actually has a chance of staying married to you. I wish you guys a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.